Today we're going to cover the C quantities and tilde codes that you have the ability to use in descriptions or formulas throughout the program. Now to be able to see what C quantities and tildes you're able to use, just open up your condition properties and click on that C quantity and tildes tab. Now tilde codes are going to be anything that has the little squiggly line right in front of it and behind the letter number combination. A C quantity is just going to be a letter number combination. So for example, if we open up the global tildes here, you'll notice that you see the squiggly line, G, J, a number, and then the squiggly line. That is going to be representative of a tilde code. When using tilde codes, it's important that you have that squiggly line there. If you need to know where that's at on your keyboard, hold Shift and hit the key right below the escape button, and that's the little tilde symbol. Now tilde codes are most of the time user-defined fields, so you're going to be putting in information in those fields. You'll notice if you're using J fields, S fields, or P fields, you have that information here. You'll notice if you're using C fields, you have that information here. And ultimately, we're using tilde codes as you're filling out information for the C quantities. Now C quantity is just condition quantity, but for example, in the roofing condition here, let's take a look at something like roll. In this case, you'll notice that we're providing lineal footage, we're providing number of sheets, and we're providing also the squares of coverage as well. So we're giving you 3 different ways to be able to calculate the quantity that you're producing on your project. In this case, if we were to look at squares of field sheet, you'll notice that it has a triangle on the left-hand side. Well, the C quantity for squares of field sheet is SQRF. But what makes up the C quantity of SQRF? Well, click that little triangle and you'll notice that that's going to be made up of tilde codes. Now those tilde codes are all fields that you're filling out inside of your condition properties. For example, your roll type, roll width, roll length, roll side lap, roll end lap, and fasten centers, that's all information that you're filling out on your general tab. So here you can see roll width, roll length, end lap, side lap, the type, and your fasten centers. So ultimately, each one of these fields that you're going through and filling out has a tilde code that's assigned to it, and we use those tilde codes in your descriptions and in your formulas to help you calculate your material accurately on a per project basis. Now, let's show you some examples of the C quantities and tilde codes if you're looking at a drywall condition. So in this case, we're going to go look at a partition condition, and we're going to see how that differs from the roofing. Now in this case, you'll notice that you're going to have specific C quantities and headers here that are going to be pertaining to just the industry that you're working in. So in this case, if we were to look at something like hanging or framing, you can expand those out and you'll see all of the C quantities that are applied. In this case, you're getting the breakout between area of side A, you're getting area of both layers, so because you have a layer 2 tab. If you wanted to see just layer 2, you could see that information. If you scroll down, you can see the total area of A and B, all layers, tops versus bottoms. There's just a lot of information that we're going to provide to you. Just like in the roofing industry and everywhere else that we use C quantities, all of the C quantities are made up of your tilde codes. So make sure that as you're going through, if you're going to use tilde codes, that you pull in the correct information. Now let me show you a couple examples of how we're going to use tilde codes and how we're going to use C quantities to come up with this formula or to come up with the specific quantity that you need in a project. In this case, we're going to close out of the condition properties window and we're actually going to take a look at the items screen. So here we'll go back to that roofing condition and take a look at your items first. So you'll notice that for our perimeter roll of membrane, we're basing it off of the C quantity of SQR1. If you're not sure what SQR1 is, you can click CP with a circle. That'll take you to your condition properties. And now you can click on that C quantities in tildes tab to go figure out what you're looking for. In this case, we're looking at rolls of membrane, so it's a good idea to start with roll. We're looking for SQR1, and so SQR1 is right here. Now what's making up SQR1? Well, again, all of those tilde codes that you fill out in your condition properties. So in this case, you'll notice that all of this information here has been filled out on the General tab in the Perimeter 1 field, and that's how we're producing the C quantity of SQR1, which is giving us our 16.56 squares that we need. Now here's a little trick for you. If you double click on this item, you're going to open up the item properties. Now this is a great place to review information, but you don't want to make any changes here, okay? The reason that I'm opening this up is to show you the description. Now earlier we were talking about those tilde codes and how we use them in formulas or in descriptions. So as you see here, your description on the material screen is actually reading 5 foot by 100 foot 045 TPO. But the item itself is reading the tilde codes. The reason that we do this is so that way as you change your material inside of your condition on a per project basis, the program is going to read and display that information accurately for you. Now, these are just a couple ways in how we utilize C quantities and tilde codes. When you're building miscellaneous items, you do have that same capability with miscellaneous items to base information off of C quantities and tilde codes. For example, in the roofing condition, if you look at this heat weld seams, it's based on lineal footage, but if we open it up, it's pulling the C quantity of LS. Well, what does LS stand for? Well, if we click our three-dotted button and we go to seam and we scroll down, we'll find LS, and LS is representative of total lineal foot of perimeter and field seam. So in this case, what you're doing is you're saying for every 1 lineal footage of field and perimeter seam, I want to calculate 1 lineal footage of labor to heat weld those seams together. Now that's not just in the roofing industry, you would also use that in your interior industry as well. So if you needed to base anything on the miscellaneous tab off of a C quantity, you have that capability. For example, if you look at this clip item, well, we're saying 1 clip per 1 number of lateral bracing and stud intersections. Well, that is going to be a C quantity of NCI. If we wanted to know what that number was going to represent, we could go out and click on the C quantities and tilde tab and look at it there. Or just like we did in that roofing condition, you can open up that 3-dotted button for C quantity and tildes, and now you can start to try to decipher where that information is going to come from. In this case, it may be under bracing, and here you can see there's that NCI code underneath the bracing header there. Now, I know that we didn't get into all of the ways that you can use C quantities and tildes, and we didn't really go into a whole lot more detail. And the reason being is because ultimately, we're just using those as variables in a description or variables in a formula to help you come up with that information. So if you do have any additional questions or if you need any additional assistance as you're manipulating these C quantities and tilde codes or trying to set up a condition that utilizes them, please feel free to give us a call on the tech line and we would be happy to assist you in any way we can. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.